Hello everyone, and I'm coming to you live from the bottom of the ocean. For those of you guys that are not aware, it is currently Shark Week, and although I'm not John Cena, as you probably can tell here, pathetically, we're going to be ranking sharks. We're going to be doing a shark tier list. Now, this is quite the different type of video from what I normally make. I know a lot about sharks. There used to be a world that I used to play all the time back in the day. So I know a fair bit about sharks, and I've been watching Shark Week all week, and I've been fascinated with them pretty much my whole life. Although I'm not like a marine biologist or anything. I want to be able to give some decent information about most of these. Now, there's some of these sharks on here I really don't know much about, but a lot of them I do know much about. So the ones that I don't know anything about, I'm probably just going to be judging them on their looks. But what makes a good shark? Well, we're pretty much going to be deciphering what that role entails as we go forward here. I'm just going to be talking a little bit about each of these sharks. I'm going to not make this too long, but we're going to learn a little bit about sharks. There's a couple cool ones that they have left out, and I'll get to those when I feel like talking about them. So we have the main tiers here, S, A, B, C, D, and F. So for the shark I'm talking about, I'm going to put it up there, that corner of the screen, whatever corner is open, and we're just going to get into this. So let's get started. So we're starting off here with the frilled shark. Now, a frilled shark, I don't really know much about. It's not in any of the video games that I've played and stuff like that. But from the looks of it, it's very unique. I mean, look at that thing. That is not what a shark's supposed to look like. I mean, does it get points for that? I'm going to be honest with you. If I was snorkeling around, because I've done a fair bit of snorkeling in my life, my uncle, island card collector, used to live in the Virgin Islands, and they're notorious for not having too many sharks, although there are sharks in the Caribbean. I've never seen one snorkeling. My dad has, and I'll get to that in a second. But this frilled shark, if I was snorkeling around and I saw that frilled shark, I would probably poop my pants and accept my fate. So I'm going to give the frilled shark probably a D tier. It's pretty ugly, and I don't think I'd want to see that in an aquarium. I don't really want to see that. Now, most of these sharks are pretty ugly looking, but I think that one's pretty dang ugly and scary. I would not want to see that. So now we're moving on to the basking shark. Now, I actually know a lot about the basking shark. I'm pretty sure when I was in 3rd grade, we had to do like this assignment about animals. Like, we had to pick an animal to choose out of this book. And I think I did a project on the basking shark when I was in 3rd grade, but I barely remember anything about that project. I just remember flipping through the newspaper that we were in, and I saw like this animal newspaper, and I saw this basking shark, and I'm like, I want to do that. So the basking shark is the 2nd largest shark species, next to the whale shark, obviously, which we'll get to here. Where's the whale shark at? Right there. We'll get to the whale shark here soon. But the basking shark is not very predaceous. It mainly feeds on plankton and shrimp, so although it is very big, and big sharks are scary, the basking shark is very unlikely to eat you. It is just a gentle giant, essentially, is what the basking shark is. But it can open up pretty wide, and actually doing some research on this thing, it can actually jump its entire body out of the water, which is absolutely insane. This thing can grow up to 25 plus feet. Probably 30 feet this thing could probably grow up to, which is absolutely massive, making it bigger than the great white, so that's pretty impressive. The basking shark, although is not too interesting, I do find it kind of fascinating, but it's very ugly. So I don't know if I can give it too high of a position. I'm leaning between B and C for the basking shark. I think I'm going to give it a C tier because there are way cooler sharks than the basking shark. Nah, I'll give it a B tier. I think the basking shark's decent. It's a pretty solid shark. Next up is the Thresher. The Thresher shark's really weird. Now, the biggest thing you can see about it is it has that really weird tail. And funny enough, that shark actually uses that tail to whip fish. So what it'll do is it'll find prey, and it'll whip it with its tail, causing it to get stunned, and then it'll eat it. So that's pretty freaking crazy. It is kind of ugly looking, but I've said that about all the other sharks. A lot of the sharks don't look very good. Like, there are a couple that look pretty. There's a couple that look pretty, like the whale shark and couple others. Most of them look pretty weird. But the Thresher is not too bad. I think I'm going to give the Thresher a B tier. It's pretty unique, and I like the fact that it whips. If it wasn't for the fact that it didn't whip fish, it probably would have been lower, but the fact that it whips fish, that's pretty sick. I'm going to give it a B tier. The Thresher, I used to not like the Thresher all that much, but I think Thresher's definitely better than I used to think. The Goblin Shark is next. Oh, jeez. The Goblin Shark might be the ugliest of them all. I don't know. It's between this and the Frilled Shark. I'm going to give the Goblin Shark an F tier because I do not want to see this thing in an aquarium. I do not want to see this thing in real life. And I don't even want to think about this thing because this thing just gives you nightmares. Look at that freaking Goblin Shark. I do not want to see that thing. Ever. F tier. One of the worst sharks of all time. Goblin Shark. Absolutely terrible. I know it's unique, but my god, it's scary. Next up is the Megamouth Shark. The Megamouth... Now, this one's actually really rare. Only a handful have actually been seen by humans, and it's actually a very big shark species. But not too many humans have seen it, and I think for that reason alone, it's a pretty good shark. Because if for some reason miraculously come across one of them, you're one of the few people to ever see it. And it is in the Hungry Shark game. So I'm going to give the Megamouth also a B tier. I think the Megamouth's pretty cool. I actually used to main the Megamouth. You know what? I'm giving the Megamouth an A. I'm giving the Megamouth an A. I actually really like the Megamouth. I used to play as it all the time in Hungry Shark, so it was a pretty good game. Megamouth's up there. Just very rare. It's hard to believe that something that big could be that rare, but we don't really know much about our own oceans. Like, you know, we always try to talk about, you know, sending people to Mars and stuff. Well, we barely know anything about our own oceans. And the Megamouth is just one of those instances. Whether or not the Megamouth is just really hard to see, there's not too many of them, or they just live in really isolated environments, we're not too sure. We don't know much about the Megamouth, but we do know it exists. And NASA sending probes down to the bottom of the ocean. We discover stuff all the time down there still. Thank you, air conditioner, for going off. Or going, you know, turning off. Next up is the Mako Shark. The Mako Shark's pretty interesting. Now, they actually did an episode this week called Makozilla, and was talking about how Mako sharks were eating off all the seals and stuff. There were huge Mako sharks. I didn't know they actually got that big, but they're over 10 feet. They can actually go to 15 feet long. They are notorious for being very fast. They are part of the certain phylum of sharks. Each shark is, there's different types of sharks, but they're part of the same phylum as the great whites. I mean, they have two sets of pectoral fins, and so they kind of look like mini great whites, except they're way thinner. But Makos can swim up to 45 miles per hour and actually catch up with speedboats. So that's pretty interesting, and I think Makos are really cool. I'm going to give the Mako Shark an A tier. Next up is going to be the Great White Shark. Now, Great White, I'm torn between S and A. Now, the Great White, I'm going to be honest, it's very overrated, but for good reason. I can understand the rating. It's an amazing shark, you know, Jaws, all this stuff. It's most notorious for being one of the most dangerous sharks, although it is not responsible for the most shark deaths out of any shark. It is the biggest predatory shark, the third largest shark, just behind the basking and whale shark. Great White pretty much is everybody's top fear shark. You know, that's the one you fear the most. That's the least one you want to see. And they actually can't have them in captivity. So the only way you can actually see it is by cage diving. Unless you don't want to cage dive, that's up to you. I'm going to give it Great White an S because it is the definition of what a good shark is. It is the definition of a shark. I don't know how you could do a tier list and not give the Great White an S tier. I mentioned earlier that they can't be in captivity. They actually have tried, especially when Jaws came out back in 1975. They've tried a lot of aquariums to keep a great white, and a lot of times they would keep the great white and it would just die because great whites are notorious for swimming hundreds of miles at a time, spanning over a great distance. But in aquariums, they can't really do that. And they noticed a lot of them, as they put them in the aquarium, they would stop feeding, or they would feed on other fish and kill everything in the aquarium, and they would just die. Most great whites in captivity only lasted a couple of days before either dying or they had to be released. So I think 16 days is the record for a great white shark in captivity. So at the end of the day, all these sharks, you might think they're scary, but at the end of the day, just think of a shark like this. It's just a big fish. That's all it is. It's just a big fish. Okay? You know, It's not trying to harm you. Most sharks will not harm you unless they're provoked. That brings us to the what the heck? The Wobbegong shark? I've never heard of the Wobbegong shark in my life. This thing just looks like a big old piece of... It doesn't even really look like a shark. I'm going to give that a D tier. I couldn't tell you a single thing about the Wobbegong shark. I'm going to be honest, I could not tell you a single thing. I have no input on that one. It just looks like scrambled eggs, I guess, with hair. Next up is the nurse shark. Now, the nurse shark my dad actually saw snorkeling. We were down in the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas. My dad went snorkeling. I don't know if I was there or if I was just at the house, but my dad went on a boat with his brother and stuff, and he's never seen a shark before. He snorkels very casually. Both of us do, at least as far as now. I just snorkel whenever I can. It's fun, but I would never snorkel alone. But he was snorkeling with a group, and he was down, and he saw Dave the cameraman. He saw a nurse shark, which is one of the most harmless sharks ever. They couldn't hurt a fly, but they probably would. They'd probably eat it. But he saw a nurse shark, and he swam back to the boat so fast he thought he was going to die. He got so freaking scared when he saw that nurse shark. But for that reason alone, it probably bumps it up a little bit higher, but I think the nurse shark is pretty mid. It's a good C tier. It's one of the few sharks that live in the Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Island area. There are a couple that have been notoriously seen in the Caribbean, like the tiger shark. That's probably the biggest one. Also, they've seen some reports of great hammerheads, and then also some Caribbean reef sharks. Usually the ones you're going to see in the Caribbean are going to be nurse sharks and Caribbean reef sharks. That's about it. So now we're moving on to the largest shark. And not only the largest shark, but the largest fish in the ocean, meaning it takes in water. It breathes in through gills. Because there are bigger animals besides the whale. It's the whale shark. There are other creatures besides the whale shark that are bigger, but they're all mammals like whales. The traditional whale is a mammal, meaning it actually breathes air, so it has to come up for air. And every time you see a whale and a dolphin and a porpoise underneath the water, sea turtles are the same way, except sea turtles aren't mammals. They are holding their breath. The whale shark is the largest fish in the ocean. And it can grow out to 40 to 50 feet. The whale shark is freaking awesome. I'm giving the whale shark an S tier just for it being the largest fish in the entire ocean. It's pretty epic feat right there, the whale shark. Now, there probably were bigger fish to live in prehistoric times like the megalodon, but we're not ranking the megalodon here because the megalodon is extinct. I'm only ranking sharks that are alive today. So the whale shark is the largest, not only shark, the largest fish. And it's a gentle giant, which means the whale shark probably would not attack you. And they have a couple in captivity. They just feed on plankton and microorganisms. So the whale shark's awesome. I'd love to swim with a whale shark. That would be so cool. Next up is the black tip reef shark. Black tip reef shark is pretty lame, as goes with most whale sharks, or not whale sharks, reef sharks in generic for a shark. You know, the typical body of a shark you see is the body of a reef shark. And I don't think reef sharks are too cool. So I'm going to give probably the black tip a C, even though the black tip does have a tip on its fin as opposed to most reef sharks, like the Caribbean reef shark, which is pretty lame. There is another shark that I wanted to touch on here called the Oceanic white tip, which I would give an A tier. I think this shark's amazing, but also very scary. The Oceanic white tip is notorious for killing off a lot of people in mysterious circumstances. Now, sharks don't happen. There's a famous saying, you're more likely to get bitten by a New Yorker than a shark, which is very true. It's very unlikely to get bit by a shark. You have to provoke it. But there was a ship back in World War II, back in the summer of 1945 in the Pacific, called the USS Indianapolis. It was they talked about this in Shark Week. It was a USS naval ship that was sunk by Japanese torpedo bombers, by Japanese dive bombers in the Pacific in 1945. And during the night, an estimated 150 people, now I don't know if that's a stretch, but interesting to think about, were killed off by what was presumably the Oceanic white-tip sharks. So that's pretty interesting. Now, we haven't 100% confirmed that, but that's what most people have concluded killed those members of the U.S. Navy there. Now, there's a difference. There is a white tip reef shark and an oceanic white tip. The oceanic white tip swims out in the deep waters, so the white tip reef shark's much smaller. But we don't have either ones there. Next up, we have the zebra shark. So the zebra shark's pretty interesting. The zebra shark's another one of those. It's kind of like the nurse shark. It's kind of harmless. And I've actually been able to pet a couple of them. I pet nurse sharks in zebra sharks at aquariums before. They feel pretty good. I'm going to give the zebra shark, although it's not like that cool, I'll probably give it a, kind of leaning on a B tier. I'll give it a B tier. I think it's got a cool design pattern on it. The zebra shark, it's much cooler than the nurse shark. The nurse shark's lame. The nurse shark doesn't have anything cool on its body like the zebra shark does. So, next up is the saw shark. The saw shark is very unique. I've actually seen some of these in aquariums as well. They are pretty crazy. I don't even know how a creature like this even comes to be. Like, it's got a huge saw on its nose. Like, it is a crazy looking shark. I'm probably gonna give it an A tier for originality. The saw shark's freaking awesome. It's not too common, and most people don't talk about it, but it's a really unique shark. I think it's really cool. Next up is the cookie cutter shark. I don't know too much about the cookie cutter shark either, but I think it's pretty little. I'm probably going to give it a C tier, though, because I don't know much about it. If anybody down in the comments, I'm sure there's a shark enthusiast down in the comments here who knows way more than I do about sharks, but this is just a casual tier list. Next up is the lantern shark. The lantern shark lives down in like what's known as the midnight zone. It's a very dark part of the ocean where the sun doesn't shine, and it just glows. There's very mysterious organisms down there, and a lot of people don't know much about us. Not a lot of people. Humanity itself doesn't know a lot about what's down there. But the lantern shark's one of the sharks we found in there, along with the goblin shark, and then the megamouth as well lives down in those types of areas. But I'm going to give the lantern shark a C tier because I'm not too big a fan of the midnight zone, but I do think that the lantern shark is a pretty interesting creature. We don't know too much about it. Next up is the Greenland shark. Now, the Greenland shark lives up in the Arctic Ocean, so it's suitable for very cold environments. I actually know a lot about the Greenland shark because it's one of the most fascinating sharks out there. It can actually live up to 400 years. Yeah, you heard me. 400 years this thing can live. Most sharks live like about 30 years, except for a couple like the great white can live like 70 years. But most sharks live about 20 to 30 years. The Greenland shark lives 400 years, and it's mainly because of the way that it grows. This thing doesn't reach sexual maturity until it's about 156 years old. And by the time it's about 200 years old, it will go completely blind, and a parasite will develop on its eye, and for the rest of its life, it'll be blind. It's a really interesting shark. I'm going to give it an A tier because I don't really want to give it an S tier because outside of its longevity, it's really not appealing to look at, but it's very fascinating, and I got to give it an A. It's actually the longest living vertebrae on Earth, the Greenland shark. So not only do sharks hold the title for largest fish, they also live the title for longest living vertebrae. It's a good shark. It's a really good shark. Next up is the sleeper shark. Now this thing looks really scary. I'm going to put it in D because I do not want to see that thing. I don't think it's quite as bad as the goblin, but that thing is also terrifying. Sharks that are blind or just scare me, and I would hate to see. Now keep in mind I don't really want to see any of these in the wild snorkeling by myself, but I would definitely not want to see the sleeper shark. Any of these in the D and F tier, the goblin and the frilled shark, I don't want to see any of them. This one I wouldn't even know is a shark. I just think that's a plant. So next up we have the angel shark. Now the angel shark's really weird. It's not even really a shark. I'm going to give it a D as well because it's just really not a shark to me. I don't see that thing as a shark. It just lays on the ground, blends in with the ocean floor, and just to hide from predators and to attack other prey. It's kind of like the Wobbegong shark. I just don't think it's very appealing, and so I'm going to give it a D. The nurse shark would probably be in D if it wasn't for the fact that I think my dad's story is funny. Next up is the blue shark. The blue shark is also a hungry shark, and I don't know too much about it. I just know it's really skinny, and it's not even really that blue. I mean, it's called the blue shark, but it's a pretty small shark. I mean, it's not that big. I mean, it's an okay size, I guess, but I'm probably going to give it a C tier. sea shark. Really not too much unique about the blue shark compared to other sharks. It's just not that cool. I do think it's interesting. I mean, I'd like to see one at some point, but it's not the coolest ever. I like big sharks, you know. They're way more appealing to people, way more fascinating. Next up is the bull shark. The bull shark, I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. The bull shark is responsible for most human deaths of any shark, and it is notorious for being able to swim in fresh water. There have been reports of bull sharks living in gulfs, swimming up rivers, and being in freshwater rivers. That's very scary. I'm going to give the bull shark... I'm leaning on a C tier, not because it's mid, it's because I think it's fascinating, and also I don't like it at the same time. Type thing. It's more like a middle of the road type thing. I don't know if I want to give it a B tier or a C tier for the bull shark. I can't say I like it that much. I'm probably going to give it a C tier. I'm not a real big fan of the bull shark. I think it's a punk shark. I just don't care for it. And it's also not very cool to look at. It's a pretty basic looking shark. So, we'll keep it a C. Moving on to the Hammerhead. This, I believe, is the Great Hammerhead. We're moving on to the Great Hammerhead. Now, there are a bunch of different types of hammerheads, but the Great Hammerhead's the best one. And I'm giving the Great Hammerhead an S tier. I love hammerhead sharks. They're very weird. Like, what even is that thing? It's a weird-looking shark. And there are a lot of weird-looking sharks. But the hammerheads are fascinating because the way that their head is designed, they can actually see about 360 degrees, so they're very aware of their environment. And hammerheads aren't really notorious for killing a lot of people. Although I would be scared if I saw one, and they have hurt people and probably killed people before. They're not very notorious for it, and they try to stay away from humans if they can. But the Great Hammerhead is actually very big. It's actually can grow about the same size as a Great White. It's one of the bigger sharks. And I think it's really cool to see the Great Hammerhead. Moving on to the Lemon Shark. I'm going to give the Lemon Shark a B. Because I do like the Lemon Shark. A lot of people probably hate on it because it's pretty generic. I like the name Lemon Shark. It's just nice because it's a yellow shark. I mean, it's a really cleverly named. And I like lemonade. You know, I like lemonade. It's a good reason to rank the shark a B tier, I think. But I just really like the Lemon Shark. I think it stands out amongst the others that I have in C tier. And I think it's a pretty iconic shark. A lot of people know about it. It's pretty cool. Most young lemon sharks, like the juveniles, just look like reef sharks. But as they get older, they start to become more distinct and yellow. Lemon shark. On to the leopard shark. I'm going to give the leopard shark also a B tier. I think the leopard shark is pretty decent. It's got a really cool pattern on it. And outside of that, it's not too harmful. It's kind of on the same level as the zebra shark and the nurse shark. And I think I've touched them in aquariums before. They're pretty cool feeling. Next up is the sand tiger shark. Now, sand tiger shark's one of the most you'll see often in aquariums. And I've seen it in almost every aquarium I've gone to. And I've kind of gotten sick of it because I used to think it was a really cool shark when in reality sand tiger shark's really not that cool. It just has big old teeth. It's not too big, but some of them are pretty big, and the populations have come back immensely in the last several decades because they used to be almost on the endangered species list, but now they're kind of coming back. I think the sand tiger shark is pretty okay. I mean, I don't hate it, but it's really not that great. I'm probably going to give it a B. Yeah, shit. I'm going to give it a C. I don't think the sand tiger is really a whole lot to write home about. It's really scary looking. I know I say that about all these, but it is really scary looking. Next up is the iconic tiger shark. Tiger shark is awesome. I'm going to give the tiger shark an A tier. Tiger sharks are pretty big as well. They can grow up to about the same size as a great hammerhead. They can grow to 15 feet. They're very predatorious, and I'd like to see one at some point in my life. They're pretty cool, tiger sharks. You just don't want to get close to them. They could probably hurt you pretty bad. They're one of the more aggressive shark species as well, but I do like them. I think they're pretty cool with the stripe pattern, giving them tiger shark. Next up is the horn shark. The horn shark is the smallest shark in existence, and it's really cute. I'm going to give it a B tier. Not too much to say about it. If I saw a horn shark in the wild, I think it'd be really cute for it being a shark. So, That's going to conclude the shark tier list, everyone. Let me know what you guys thought about that. That was just a fun little video. Which one of these sharks is your favorite? And I noticed there were a lot of sharks that were not on this list. This was just a little list. I think it just hit the highlights. So in S tier, we have the great white whale shark and hammerhead. In A tier, we have the megamouth, mako, saw shark, Greenland shark, and tiger shark. In the B tier, we have the basking shark, the thresher shark, zebra shark, lemon shark, leopard shark, and horn shark. And then the C tier, we have the nurse shark, black tip reef shark, cookie cutter, lantern, blue bull, and sand tiger shark. And then in D tier, we have the frilled shark, the Wobbegong shark, the sleeper shark, and the angel shark. And then in F tier, we have the goblin shark. So let me know what you guys thought. There were a couple sharks they didn't put on this list that I might know a little bit of opinions about. So if you guys want to know my opinion on those, be sure to drop it down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think about that. And let me know which sharks are your favorite. And happy Shark Week, everyone. I'll see you guys next time for more history and Nintendo related videos. But that was pretty fun. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Wah!